Few things in your home are as important as the mattress on which you sleep. Avocado Green mattress is next level. Avocado Green mattresses are certified organic mattresses that deliver luxurious comfort, ergonomic back support, and naturally cool sleep. 3 comfort options: firm, medium, or plush. What does comfort mean to you? For me, comfort is sleeping cool. No tossing, no turning, just deep, refreshing rest. Avocado mattresses are built for your comfort. They're handcrafted from the finest natural organic ingredients for superior durability and are designed to last. Unlike mattresses with low-quality memory foam, those mattresses break down in a matter of years. And for those of you with back problems, Avocado mattresses feature thousands of steel coils individually encased in fabric pockets that flex independently to reduce motion transfer and support your body where it needs it most. You'll feel just as good getting into bed as you do getting out of bed. Also, Avocado offers up to 1-year sleep trials and generous warranties for your peace of mind. Head to avocadogreenmattress.com today and check out Avocado's mattress and bedding sale. Avocado, dream of better.
If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
And away we go. Episode 1197 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. It is the day after the 3-7 Washington Commanders landed in Spain for their game against the 3-7 Miami Dolphins in Madrid this Sunday morning at 9:30 in Week 11 of the NFL's 2025 regular season. The Commanders landed in Spain on Tuesday morning. This also is the day after quite the Instagram post by Commanders interior defensive lineman Daron Payne. So the NFL on Monday morning announced that Payne had been suspended without pay for 1 game, this for throwing a punch at Detroit Lions receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown during the Commanders' 44-22 loss to the Lions at Northwest Stadium this past Sunday. Payne got ejected from the game. Interior defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw, during his postgame session with reporters on Sunday night, said that he saw Amon-Ra St. Brown hit Daron Payne first. There had been no clear evidence of this until now. Payne, in an Instagram post on Tuesday, had video of St. Brown clearly throwing a punch at Payne a few plays prior to Payne throwing a punch at St. Brown. No penalty or punishment for St. Brown, despite him throwing the punch right in front of an official. You know, that's an ironic name for Amon-Ra St. Brown. No saint is he. Now, this video does not excuse Daron Payne for what he did. He needs to be smarter than that. Him putting himself in position to be ejected and suspended really is inexcusable, especially considering that he was a captain for this game. But him throwing that punch now has more context, and props to his teammate Javon Kinlaw for preaching some truth. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, on which we always preach truth. The Commanders on Tuesday afternoon announced multiple roster moves. The team announced having placed cornerback Trey Amos on the reserve/injured list due to the fractured fibula that he suffered in the loss to the Lions. And the team announced having signed receivers Robbie Chosen and Jacoby Jones from the practice squad to the active roster, and having signed unrestricted free agent receiver River Craycraft and unrestricted free agent edge defender Marcus Walker to the practice squad. And what stands out with those signings is that the Commanders signed 2 receivers to the active roster, despite it being the case that receiver Noah Brown, remember him, is eligible to come off the reserve/injured list this week. It would seem unlikely that that's happening given these signings. Brown, in the loss to the Lions, missed an 8th consecutive game due to groin and knee injuries. The Commanders on October 15th announced having put Brown on the reserve/injured list. list. Next segment, a conversation with Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack on how and why this Commander season has gone wrong. Ben also will be joining us on Thursday's show, episode 1198. But specific to this show, we're going to focus on how and why this Commander season has gone wrong, including what truly was behind head coach Dan Quinn demoting Joe Whitt Jr. and taking over as defensive coordinator, whether injuries truly are the biggest reason for the team's disappointing season, how we should view what general manager Adam Peters did in the 2025 offseason, the possibility that there's more to the team's disappointing season than we know, and what to make of quarterback Marcus Mariota saying, quote, "I don't think we are who we think we are," end quote. Ben Standig, next segment. And also on the show, I'll talk Washington Capitals, Maryland basketball, and Virginia basketball. The Caps, they on Tuesday night won for just the second time in 8 games, a 4-1 win at the Carolina Hurricanes. The Terrapins, they on Tuesday night routed Alcorn State 84-64 at Xfinity Center in College Park, Maryland. And the Cavaliers, they late night on Tuesday night blew out Hampton 91-53 at John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville, Virginia. Before we get to some feedback, the Washington Nationals, they on Tuesday afternoon announced having hired Simon Matthews as their pitching coach. Simon Matthews is just 30 years old. He joins the Nats off spending 5 seasons with the Cincinnati Reds organization, most recently as their pitching coach for the 2025 season. He's a 2017 graduate of Georgetown University, pitched for the Hoyas for their 2015 through 2017 seasons, off having transferred from Temple University following the 2014 season. And yeah, he's just 30. Boy, the Nats are going with a youth movement in their baseball operations revamping. President of Baseball Operations, Paul Taboni, is just 35. He is the youngest head of baseball operations in MLB. Manager Blake Butera is just 33, youngest manager in MLB since Frank Quillisi for the Minnesota Twins in 1972. And pitching coach Simon Matthews is just 30. And I do not have a problem with any of this. The Nats were so in need of fresh ideas and new blood and modern thinking. And this guy Matthews is a big sports science guy. He, prior to joining the Reds organization in 2021, was the director of pitching at Push Performance in Tempe, Arizona, and was an online trainer at Driveline Baseball. He, in those roles, designed throwing programs for pitchers with an emphasis on improving movement patterns and velocity, and promoted arm health. Also, it is official, the Nats hitting coach for the previous 4 seasons, Darnell Coles, is gone. The Atlanta Braves on Tuesday morning announced having hired Coles as assistant hitting coach. He had been the Nats hitting coach since October 2021. The results with him as Nats hitting coach were not good, but how much of that was him versus just the Nats having bad/inexperienced players was always hard to say. By the way, the Braves on Tuesday morning also announced that Tony Mansolino, who served as the Baltimore Orioles interim manager this past season, now is the Braves bench coach, a change from his previously announced role as Braves third base coach. Also, the second college football playoff rankings of the 2025 season came out on Tuesday night. Virginia down 5 spots to number 19. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Feedback on the Commanders, email from Asim from the Jersey Shore. Writes Asim: Al, love the show. Never miss an episode. Love that you live for this team and call the team out when appropriate. This is the most pathetic rock bottom of a team I have ever seen. I have been a fan since 1982. The team is not even competitive. It's like Alabama versus community college bad. If DQ can't make the defense allow less than 25 per game for the rest of the season, then fire them. And Adam Peters needs to be on notice. Even Ron was competitive in November for 2 seasons. If you lose by 7 or less at this point, it is a victory. Thank you for the email, Asim. I do not think that Dan Quinn is in danger of being fired, nor do I think that he deserves to be fired. What I think becomes especially interesting now is what happens at defensive coordinator moving forward. Joe Whitt, now that he has been demoted, is as good as gone after this season. If Quinn does well as defensive coordinator the rest of this season, does he remain as the team's defensive coordinator? If Quinn doesn't do well as defensive coordinator the rest of this season, or just doesn't like being both head coach and defensive coordinator, who does the team go with as defensive coordinator moving forward? And if the team does hire a new defensive coordinator and that person is an external hire, does that person bring in his own assistant acceptance, leading to a significant revamping of the defensive portion of Quinn's coaching staff. As awful as this Commanders season has become, their 2026 offseason has gotten a lot more interesting. We do have that. A, the situation at defensive coordinator. B, the likelihood of the team having a top 10 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. The Commanders, as of right now, have the number 8 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. Email from Marlon. Writes Marlon, "Hey Al, so what's causing all this? I thought that Lattimore was the cause of the bad defense, but it seems whoever the team puts out there, same outcome. If Quinn doing the defensive play calling still has the same outcome, how can the owners even have faith that Quinn knows what he's doing?" But question on Jayden Daniels. Is he still doing the VR training? Last year, we heard a lot about that and how it helped him with mental reps, but this season, we ain't hearing nothing. Would be interesting to see what the VR staff would have to say on if Daniels' mental reps are accurate or if the staff also sees Daniels regressing. Last season, when Daniels got hurt, Quinn mentioned the VR training and mental reps were like Daniels was playing live action. What has happened this season with Daniels missing a lot of games? Was the VR not good enough to help Daniels with his timing or overthrows? What say you? Thank you for the email, Marlon. Great question on the virtual reality training, the VR training. I would assume that Daniels this season is doing the VR training a lot. I don't see why he wouldn't be. It is true that we this season have not heard much about the VR training, but I think that that's mostly because that's considered a last season topic and ground that already has been covered. The VR training is great and I believe has helped Daniels a lot going back to his time at LSU, but the VR training can't overcome the Commanders having been ripped apart by injury at receiver. To whatever extent Daniels this season has been less decisive and less accurate than he was last season, I think that a lot of that is on this receiving core being so depleted. And a consequence of that would be Daniels just not trusting receivers who are available to be open. But yeah, Jayden Daniels this season has not been as good as he was last season. There's no doubt about that. ESPN's total QBR, Daniels last regular season, 67.7. Daniels this regular season, 51.2. Overall grade per Pro Football Focus. Daniels last regular season, 89.6. Daniels this regular season, 76.7. There was a lot of talk last week about the nature of Jayden Daniels' season off the critique by Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner of Westwood One in a post on X on November 4th. But to me, the summation of Daniels' season so far is simple. He has been injured 3 times. He has not been as good as he was last season, but he has had a receiving core that has been ripped apart by injury and has had an overall pass-catching core that has been guilty of too many drops/catches that could have been made but weren't. There's important context with Daniels' season that needs to be mentioned. And yes, as the GOAT of pro wrestlers, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, once said, "What's causing all this?"
And we always want to know one thing, what's causing all this? Woo!
Yes, thank you, Nature Boy. Email from a good friend of this podcast, Howard Gutman, the former United States ambassador to Belgium. Ambassador Gutman, a longtime friend of and strategic advisor for Commanders limited partner Mitchell Rails, also is a longtime friend of Commanders limited partner Mark Ein. And Ambassador Gutman and his son Colin host a Commanders postgame show, the Postgame Gut Check, on Sports Radio 910 The Fan in Richmond, Virginia, and on the Odyssey app. Writes the Ambassador, Galdi, greetings from the plane to Barcelona. My wife Michelle and I are headed there for 3 days, and then we'll meet Colin in Madrid for the game on Sunday. Colin and I will do our post-game show at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time from Madrid. I'm writing to flag one name for you to keep in mind, though I have no inside information. Adin Dirty, a Brit who never played a single down in the NFL, though he played in NFL Europe. Dirty played for such famous teams as the Scottish Claymores and the Hamburg Sea Devils. On our postgame show following the embarrassment against Detroit, Colin and I discussed the need for a new direction and leadership on D. Ken Norton, for example, is a great guy, but does anyone believe that elevating a member of Joe Whitt's staff long-term is going to fix this mess? So we discussed how the Seattle Seahawks 3-3-5 defense is the most popular current model. Given that Mike McDonald, the head coach, controls that D, we wondered who the official defensive coordinator is for the Seahawks. Yes, you guessed it, Brit and former Sea Dog, Aden Dirty. As we looked into the mysterious Britt Moore, we learned that Dirty was on the Falcons' defensive staff with Dan Quinn. Quinn then brought Dirty to the Cowboys. When Quinn and Whitt left to go to the Commanders, Mike McDonald hired Dirty as the defensive coordinator in Seattle. Did Quinn bring the wrong protege with him to D.C.? Does Dirty like challenges? Really, really big challenges. Time will tell. All the best. Thank you for the email, Ambassador Gutman. Very interesting idea, one that the Commanders absolutely should be open to, although Aden Dirty would have to want to leave the Seahawks. But, of course, an elevated title and a whole lot of money could make that happen. And the fact that Dan Quinn has this relationship with Dirty is significant. Aden Dirty, A-D-E-N, Aden Dirty, D-U-R-D-E. He's 46 years old. He's from North London, England. Joined the Seahawks coaching staff as defensive coordinator in February 2024. This following 3 seasons, 2021 through 2023. As the Dallas Cowboys defensive line coach. Dirty spent 4 seasons, 2016 and then 2018 through 2020, with the Atlanta Falcons under Dan Quinn during his time as Falcons head coach. Dirty was a coaching intern for the Falcons for the 2016 season, then was a defensive assistant for the Falcons for the 2018 and 2019 seasons, and then was the Falcons outside linebackers coach for the 2020 season. Hey, if you're listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them. Few things in your home are as important as the mattress on which you sleep. Avocado Green mattress is next level. Avocado Green mattresses are certified organic mattresses that deliver luxurious comfort, ergonomic back support, and naturally cool sleep. 3 comfort options: firm, medium, or plush. What does comfort mean to you? For me, comfort is sleeping cool. No tossing, no turning, just deep, refreshing rest. Avocado mattresses are built for your comfort. They're handcrafted from the finest natural organic ingredients for superior durability and are designed to last. Unlike mattresses with low-quality memory foam, those mattresses break down in a matter of years. And for those of you with back problems, Avocado mattresses feature thousands of steel coils individually encased in fabric pockets that flex independently to reduce motion transfer and support your body where it needs it most. You'll feel just as good getting into bed as you do getting out of bed. Also, Avocado offers up to 1-year sleep trials and generous warranties for your peace of mind. Head to avocadogreenmattress.com today and check out Avocado's mattress and bedding sale. Avocado, dream of better.
If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you go by Aaron Schatz's DVOA metric, defense adjusted value over average, the Washington Commanders for the 2025 regular season through Week 10 are number 19 in the NFL in total offense, number 24 in the NFL in total defense, and number 3 in the NFL in special teams efficiency. But there is a lot more to our team than that. Shots in an FTNFantasy.com piece that came out on Tuesday morning detailed the NFL teams with the biggest increases and decreases in DVOA since Week 6. Quote, Week 10 is a good time to split the season in 2 and look back on which teams have been improving or declining over the last few weeks. There are some really big gaps between DVOA in the first 5 weeks compared to the last 5 weeks, end quote. Well, guess which team is one of those teams? Yes, the Commanders. They, since Week 6, have had both the biggest offensive decline and the biggest defensive decline in the NFL in DVOA for this regular season. Total offense in terms of DVOA, the Commanders have gone from plus 13.8% over weeks 1 through 5 to minus 17.4% for weeks 6 through 10. Total defense in terms of DVOA, and negative DVOA for a defense is good. The Commanders have gone from minus 6.3% over weeks 1 through 5 to plus 22.9% for weeks 6 through 10. What has happened with the Commanders in this regular season is remarkable. From 3-2 to now 3-7, 5 consecutive losses, with each of the last 4 losses being by at least 21 points. Head coach Dan Quinn, during his day after the game press conference on Monday afternoon, off the 44-22 loss to the Detroit Lions at Northwest Stadium on Sunday, announced that he had demoted Joe Whitt Jr. and had taken over as the team's defensive coordinator. We have the 3-7 Commanders versus the 3-7 Miami Dolphins in Spain this Sunday morning at 9:30. It is a pleasure to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack. You could read his work at lastmanstanding.substack.com. He also is the host of the Last Man Standing podcast. You could follow Ben on X at Ben Standig, and Ben is joining us for the first of 2 conversations on the podcast this week. Ben, I'm not sure how we got here with this season, but here we are. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Unfortunately, we've all had practice dealing with this team during, some crazy times. And it's just that this, the other ones we all saw coming for the most part. This one, even if you were somewhat pessimistic about keeping up, that they would keep up last year's heights, you still didn't think it would be like this. And, Jaden Daniels doesn't play defense, his injury is not good, but that's not, they didn't lose this game because of that. They lost this game because their defense is just, I don't even know if atrocious is the right word, or it's incomprehensible how bad it is.
This, statistically speaking, is tracking toward being one of the worst defenses in Commanders franchise history. Heck, you, during Dan Quinn's postgame press conference on Sunday night, had this exchange with Quinn.
And obviously, everything falls under your responsibility as head coach. But as a guy for the defensive side, how bizarre is it to watch these other teams come in and just be able to score possession after possession against you guys?
Yeah, the last 2.5 games I've been, obviously super disappointed. I thought, I guess what was it, in Kansas City at the first half, I thought that was like, okay, moving in the right space. And what's the saying, a step forward and then backwards, and so it's not what we want. And that's a big part of us, like I said, the identity and play style and all of it. So.
All right, curious about your thoughts on this. Dan Quinn, during that postgame presser on Sunday night, indicated that no major change would come until the team got to its bye week, which is the week after this game against the Dolphins in Spain. But he, less than 24 hours later, made this announcement of having demoted Joe Whitt and having taken over as defensive coordinator. What do you make of that?
He said on Monday when we spoke with him that he said after watching and reviewing the tape, he felt that like he needed to do something. So I as you know, after immediate post game, he's very hesitant to ever say what he thinks about something that happened, especially if it's a negative thing, because he wants to go back and watch the tape. So maybe on Sunday he's like, okay, I don't want to say I'm going to do anything now, but then he looks at the tape and it's somehow worse than he thought. That must just be such a terrible watch for those guys. I mean, it's bad enough for the rest of us, but it's for them. It is literally their world that they're having to watch get destroyed. So I'm guessing it's that. I mean, certainly it's possible there was a bigger conversation held. I thought if there was going to be a change, do it after Madrid with the bye week, upcoming. But, I guess if it's only going to be Dan Quinn taking over, it shouldn't be that complicated. I mean, he's been a defensive coordinator, of course, and he is still involved in the defensive game planning and all that. I do think, though, look, people wanted Joe Whitt moved on. Okay, fine. Well, now the spotlight's definitively on Dan Quinn, and he is a defensive guy. So if this thing doesn't turn around, it's going to bring even up more questions about his situation. So It probably had to happen at some point. I was maybe a tick surprised it happened before the bye, but I mean, obviously, you can't be too surprised with the way things are going.
Perhaps Dan Quinn taking over as Commanders' defensive coordinator makes a difference. He does have an excellent track record as a DC, but the defense, now like the offense, has been ripped apart by injury. And when you add to the mix that interior defensive lineman Daron Payne for this game against the Dolphins will be serving a one-game suspension without pay for throwing a punch at Lions receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown this past Sunday, the Commanders for this game will be without 6 defensive starters due to injury/suspension. Payne, edge defenders Dorrance Armstrong, and Dietrich Wise Jr., cornerbacks Marshawn Lattimore and Trey Amos, and safety Will Harris. And there is the offense, which also has been ravaged by injury. The QB1, Jaden Daniels, is set to be out for a 5th time in 11 games this regular season. The WR1, Terry McLaurin, is set to be out for the 7th time in 8 games. The WR3, Noah Brown, is set to be out for a 9th consecutive game. Hypothetical. If the Commanders this season were dealing with league average injury luck, not the great injury luck of last season, but not the horrific injury luck of this season, just league average injury luck, would the team have a winning record for this regular season? Or have we seen enough bad, especially from the defense, to where this team might still be having a disappointing season?
I mean, obviously the injuries are just happening everywhere now. But for the most part, the 2 main positions that were getting hurt were the wide receiver and defensive end, right? You lose your sack leader in Dorrance Armstrong. You lose the bigger guy that they brought in to help with the run in Dietrich Wise. I'm not saying Javonte Jean-Baptiste is all that, but he was like their sort of like one of the next men up. And then, of course, at receiver, we talked about the lack of depth there behind Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown and how that's come to bite them. If you spread that out a little bit, I mean, I don't want to be overly specific, but if say Dorrance Armstrong is still playing and one of the defensive tackles got hurt instead, does that change things? I mean, maybe, right? Because at least like even if Daron Payne is suspended, like they still have some other bodies. I guess the thing is ultimately just the depth across the board is just not good enough, and this is the part that I think a lot of us who were not completely caught up in the magic, and it was hard to not be. We're like, hey, I still don't know if they have enough here, or I still don't quite know how they're doing this, but because the injuries didn't happen last year, for the most part, there was not this big issue of things are falling off so badly. So I don't know. I think they would be better. I mean, look, they beat the Chargers in week 5 to go to 3-2. And at that point, you'd already been missing some players, right? I mean, week 2 was a disaster for injuries. They lose Will Harris in week 3. Jaden's missing some time in there. Terry's out. They were 3-2, and the defense played well against the Chargers. But from that point forward, has been an unmitigated disaster. And so I don't think they would be this bad, but I think the fact that they just have the depth is still a problem. And frankly, some of the younger guys have not filled in some of those holes. I think we would probably be questioning how come they're not as good as they were a year ago, but I don't know. I'd like to think they just wouldn't be this bad.
What do you think is fair and proper to say right now about the 2025 offseason that Commanders general manager Adam Peters conducted?
Oh, man. I mean, it's hard to defend any of it at the moment. Here's something I talked about on my podcast the other day. That is, look, I think I've long said I don't think they were like all in, so to speak, on their moves. That they were trying to get better because they recognized that they were lacking a lot of talent in some spots. So they go ahead and get Laramie Tunsil to be Jaden's pass protector. That cost you some picks. You spent the 5th on Deebo Samuel. That cost you a 5th. They made the trade last year for Lattimore, of course. That cost you some picks. I understand why they made all of those trades. The thing, and like, to varying degrees, these things have worked out. Lattimore obviously is much more complicated because last year was such a mess. But the one thing I wonder, you talk about, did Adam Peters do the right stuff? We'll see about the draft classes ultimately. The one thing I wonder, though, is, and I'm not saying that these are bad guys by any stretch of the imagination or that they've caused any kind of friction or anything. But for a team that was so much spilt last year on this I got to come up with a better. Do kids even know what kumbaya means anymore? I keep saying that because like I don't know how, that's my term for everybody gets along. But everybody's like in a tight bond last year, and they bring in three guys who all to some degree their former teams wanted to move on from for a variety of reasons, but I think in part maybe some questions about chemistry. Right? I mean, that was certainly, we heard a little bit about that Tunsil. We heard a little bit about that Debo. I think we heard a little bit about that with Lattimore. Again, I've not heard that that they're causing problems. But you bring in three guys with big egos who are not automatically going to assimilate to the group that you have. Then you combine that with the Terry McLaurin deal, with the tension caused over that. And again, I don't want to be as simple as to say that like those things change this team, but I really do wonder. I mean, I asked Dan Quinn on Monday. I said, "Hey, so much of what was successful last year was you guys had this culture, this brotherhood, whatever you want to call it, that seemed to help everybody along the way. Where is that this year?" And I already forgot what he said, but like whatever he said, one of the bigger changes was bringing in these huge personalities, and I don't know if it's completely fit. And it just feels like the group has been off in that regards. So, I already forgot what you exactly asked me, but in terms of, you asked about Adam Peters. So I'm not saying that they were bad choices, but like, I understand why they brought them in from a football perspective. I just do wonder a little bit, did they kind of go away from the vibe, the attitude, the personality angle that everybody last year bought into? And these three guys with their own individual unique situations, I don't know that they were the ideal fits. Again, I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying, if you ask what do I think of what Peters did, I think that's a part that just doesn't get discussed as much.
We're talking with Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack. What you just talked about makes me think of something that I've brought up on the podcast. So we many times in recent Commanders franchise history, at the end or near the end of a disappointing season for the team, have had some major report, sometimes multiple major reports on things that went wrong. And it is in these reports that we have gotten anonymous quotes and anonymous sources and reveals of behind-the-scenes problems about which we had no idea. And what I've been wondering is one or more of these exposés for this team this season coming? Because things with the defense have gotten so bad to where you've got to wonder if there's more than meets the eye to what's going on here. You write about the team. Heck, you yourself have written some of these aforementioned reports. Do you think that there's more to this disappointing Commander season than is being reported or discussed right now?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is I don't know. I think we're probably still too early in the year for those things to come out. Like one of the things, I had Ian Rappaport on the podcast the other day, and I asked him, I was like, when it comes to like rumors, trade deadline or otherwise, Washington is a team that is rarely mentioned. Like at best, it's sort of tangential. Like player X might be available for teams and maybe Washington gets involved. It's very rarely that, hey, Washington's looking to do this, Washington's do that. And we discuss why that's the case. And I think that like they are pretty good at, keeping things under wraps, that, Adam Peters probably has enough respect around the league that when he talks to somebody about a possible trade or something, that he's like, hey, if this gets out, please don't do that. So they don't. So I don't know. Like what I'm saying is like, I don't know that we will, because it's not a lot of gossip out there on this team. It's just, kind of your own thoughts, your own observations. I mean, obviously you try to talk to some people and, I do buy that they are still a largely cohesive group, but to your point, like the defense has been such a mess. It's just like, how could it be this bad in terms of like guys don't seem to be knowing where to go? You watch some of the plays and you can just tell there's confusion out there. Is there something to the effect of, guys doing their own thing or a lack of leadership on that side of the ball? Not listening to Joe Whitt when he was running the show. I don't know. So in terms of an expose, I mean, I don't know. I think the one part of this, and I brought this up on my podcast and asked Ian for his take, was, the the Terry McLaurin situation, I still wonder, is there more to that whole deal from a tension perspective than we know? Because, I remember when Terry was asked after he signed the deal if he was happy with the deal. And he said absolutely or whatever. Boy, I just almost find that hard to believe, right? That he did, because he clearly didn't get exactly what he was looking for. And it went on the whole summer. And, we heard his comments before camp even started about how pissed off he was about where things were going. And I'm not saying that in of itself derailed the season, but that was a guy who obviously was such a leader, such a guy to follow. And if he is off message with this team, and then you bring in other pieces, where does that put the team in this culture bit? So that might be one I would look at, but I've not heard anything that would tell me, oh my God, here comes a thing. And I also think it's just too early. When I wrote about the end of the Rivera era, like everybody kind of knew that was gone. That was over, and people were willing to speak out a bit more. I think here it's still, far too early for that, but you never know.
No, you don't. Along these lines, what Commanders quarterback Marcus Mariota said during his postgame press conference on Sunday night, quote, "I don't think we are who we think we are," end quote. I do want to give the quote some context, because there's a difference between reading that quote or even hearing just that quote versus hearing the quote in its proper context. So we, during the Mariota postgame presser on Sunday night, had an exchange between David Aldridge of The Athletic and Mariota, and then an exchange between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Mariota. Here you go.
Marcus, how far away does it feel from being the team that you think you're capable of being?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I don't feel real close. And at the same time, though, day in and day out, I see guys coming in, giving it their all. So I do feel like we have the motivation, the determination to get this right. But we're running out of games and we're running out of time. So there has to be a sense of urgency, which I do believe there is in the locker room, and we'll figure it out.
How surprised are you that we're sitting here and after 10 games, that you're still saying you still have to figure out who you guys are and what you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should shy away from that. I think that's the truth. And I think that's transparency. And at the end of the day, in order to get things going in the right direction, you have to be transparent, you have to be honest. And I don't think we are who we think we are. So with that being said, it's a quick turnaround. It's a trip to Europe. It's an opportunity for us to kind of dive in together. I believe in this brotherhood. I believe in the guys in the locker room. But like I said, there's got to be a sense of urgency, and I think our guys feel that.
All right, Marcus Mariota, quote, "I don't think we are who we think we are," end quote. Do you take anything significant from that quote, or not really?
Considering the source, I don't think I would go too crazy with it. But look, I mean, I think one of the things that's been, like, you tell me, you have a better memory than me. Has anybody gone off this year? Like, has anybody at any point at a press conference, in the locker room, on social media, anywhere, blasted the whole, whatever the scene is in some way, shape, or form, right? You're shaking no. So I don't think so either, right? So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I do think it is to some degree to say that they have felt all along, we're not worried. We know we can get this thing turned around, and obviously that hasn't happened. So maybe that's where Mariota is talking about, perhaps, that there's not, maybe there's not enough desperation, maybe there's not enough acceptance or reality here that they are not where they think they are, which, to some degree makes sense. I mean, it still blows my mind that they were 3-2, beat the Chargers pretty handily in the last three quarters of that game. I almost feel like when Deebo Samuel, when we found out the next week that he got a heel injury, is when everything fell apart. Because at that point, he had pretty much dominated the Chargers. Obviously, Jaden had come back and played pretty smart. Bill ran wild in that game. And then he's hurt the next week. They should have beaten the Bears, you could say. But, that thing started to fall apart there, and it's just snowballed since. And, maybe, again, the injuries, it's hard to overcome, but maybe they just keep thinking, we're not bad, but we're just getting crushed by the injuries. And then it just, as this continued to snowball.
Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack, and Ben will be back with us on Thursday's show, episode 1198. Ben, thanks.
Thanks, man.
All right, the Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers, it will fight for you and win for you. Just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court in a case in which the Nace Law Group represented the family of a 42-year-old man who died after a simple procedure. Lead attorney Chris Nace is a big Commanders fan and big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. The Nace Law Group fights for victims of all kinds of situations, including victims of errors made during diagnosis, during surgery, or with medication, victims of injuries caused by dangerous medications or medical devices, as well as defective auto parts, victims of accidents involving cars, trucks, bikes, or motorcycles, victims of deceptive trade practices and false advertising, heck, victims of shady lawyers. If your attorney acts in bad faith, is unethical in his or her counsel, or is negligent in his or her work, you could have a claim for legal malpractice. The Nace Law Group has represented corporate clients throughout the region. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. As we discussed on Monday's show, episode 1195, a pattern for the Washington Capitals this season had been them dominating the puck possession battle, but being bad on special teams and losing. Well, the Caps on Tuesday night lost the puck possession battle, but were good on special teams and won. A 4-1 win at the Carolina Hurricanes on Tuesday night. Remember, the Caps lost to the Hurricanes 4-1 in a best-of-7 series in the second round of the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. The Caps in the NHL's 2025-2026 regular season now are 8-7-1. They won for just the second time in 8 games. The Caps improved to just 2-1 since losing center Pierre-Luc Dubois. He's on injured reserve due to injuries that he suffered in the Caps' 3-1 loss to the New York Islanders at Capital One Arena on October 31st. Dubois on November 7th underwent surgery to address injuries to his abdominal and adductor muscles. So was expected to miss 3 to 4 months. So the Caps on Tuesday night won 4-1 despite losing the puck possession battle. They had 28 shots on goal to the Hurricanes 31, and per natural stat trick had just 31 5-on-5 shot attempts to the Hurricanes 50, including 7 5-on-5 high danger shot attempts to the Hurricanes 9. But the Caps were good on special teams. The Caps went 5 for 5 on the penalty kill as their starting goaltender Logan Thompson was great again. He stopped 30 of the 31 shots on goal that he faced, leaving him with having allowed 2 or fewer goals in 10 of his 11 starts in this regular season. And the Caps went 1 for 5 on the power play as defenseman Jacob Chychrun scored a power play goal 5:46 into the third period for his 4th goal in this regular season, and he had a game-high tying 5 shots on goal. He did commit 2 minor penalties, a second period holding minor and a third period cross-checking minor. Also scoring for the Caps on Tuesday night was the grade 8 top-line left wing Alex Ovechkin, he scored an even-strength empty net goal 19:29 into the third period for his fourth goal in this regular season and for his 901st career NHL regular season goal, most in NHL history. And Ovi had a primary assist and a team-high tying 7 total shot attempts, so though just 2 shots on goal, but he was number 1 on the Caps in 5-on-5 shot attempt percentage for the game per natural stat trick at 55. The Caps, with Ovechkin on the ice in 5-on-5 situations in the game, had 11 shot attempts versus allowing 9 shot attempts. So a nice game for Alex Ovechkin. Nice game for Caps top-line center Dylan Strome. He scored an even-strength goal 5:59 into the second period for his 5th goal in this regular season. Also, he went 7-3 on face-offs, and he was number 3 on the Caps in 5-on-5 shot attempt percentage for the game per natural stat trick at 52.63. The Caps with Strome on the ice in 5-on-5 situations in the game had 10 shot attempts versus allowing 9 shot attempts. And Caps' fourth-line left wing, Brandon Duhaime, he scored an even-strength goal, 5:42 into the first period for his 2nd goal in this regular season. But maybe most notable with him is that he had a game-high 7 block shots, as the Caps had 21 block shots to the Hurricanes' 10. Not often that a forward has 7 block shots. Defensemen get block shots, not so much forwards, but Duhaime in this game, 7 block shots, sacrificing his body for the good of the team. The Caps' healthy scratches were defensemen Trevor Van Riemsdyk and Dylan McElrath and winger Sonny Milano. We drink Caps head coach Spencer Carberry's post-game session with reporters on Tuesday night. Had this exchange between Caps insider Mike Vogel of WashingtonCaps.com and Carberry, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange between Caps insider Johnson of the Washington Post and Carberry.
You led the whole game, too. Aside from everything else you just said, but do you feel like this is an affirmation, this game is kind of an affirmation of all that you've been going through these last 7 games where the analytics have been good, but the results haven't been commensurate?
Yeah, our group knew this was a big hockey game for us. This was a really, really important game for our team for a bunch of different reasons. And you could go down the list of us struggling. You could go down the list of our issues that we've had with this team in this building. It's been a couple years since we won here, right? Including the playoffs. And so there's a lot of reasons why tonight was really important for us to put a good performance on display, and you're playing against one of the best teams in the National Hockey League, so you're trying to validate that we can play with teams like this when you're going through a stretch like we are, and we've lost whatever we have, even though we've played well in lots of the games. So, yeah, it was an important game. It's one game, I understand that, but I think it's a little bit, like you said, affirmation of we're doing the right things, and we got to stay with it, and we've got lots long way to go, but it was a really, really, really important game tonight.
What can you guys build on out of this one heading into the stretch that really doesn't get any easier?
I just think the confidence of our group of being able to play on the road in arguably the most difficult building in the league against one of the best teams in the league, a team that we've had our issues with, and to come in here and dictate terms and grab a hold of the lead and play well on special teams and sort of take it to their penalty kill, which has had their way with us for majority of our guys have felt that. And so you go through that and you can succeed in those moments and put a well-rounded effort and just clicking on all cylinders for majority of the night. Gives you some confidence to go in, and hopefully now we can, gives us a little bit of momentum moving forward after going through a tough stretch.
All right, next up for the Caps at the Florida Panthers, Thursday night at 7. Few things in your home are as important as the mattress on which you sleep. Avocado Green Mattress is next level. Avocado Green mattresses are certified organic mattresses that deliver luxurious comfort, ergonomic back support, and naturally cool sleep. 3 comfort options: firm, medium, or plush. What does comfort mean to you? For me, comfort is sleeping cool. No tossing, no turning, just deep, refreshing rest. Avocado mattresses are built for your comfort. They're handcrafted from the finest natural organic ingredients for superior durability and are designed to last. Unlike mattresses with low-quality memory foam, those mattresses break down in a matter of years. And for those of you with back problems, Avocado mattresses feature thousands of steel coils individually encased in fabric pockets that flex independently to reduce motion transfer and support your body where it needs it most. You'll feel just as good getting into bed as you do getting out of bed. Also, Avocado offers up to 1-year sleep trials and generous warranties for your peace of mind. Head to avocadogreenmattress.com today and check out Avocado's mattress and bedding sale. Avocado, dream of better. And let's talk college basketball. Blowout wins for Maryland and Virginia on Tuesday night. Maryland in the 2025-2026 regular season improved to 2-1 overall with an 84-64 win over Alcorn State at Xfinity Center in College Park, Maryland on Tuesday night. The Terrapins allowed a 19-point first-half lead to get trimmed to 5 points early in the second half at 33-28, but the Terps ended the game on a 51-36 run. The Terps' leading scorer was 6'9" Texas A&M transfer Pharrell Payne. He in 30 minutes as a starter went 8 for 10 from the field. All twos, went 6 for 8 on free throws. He finished with 22 points and 7 rebounds, including 3 offensive boards. Did have no assists versus 4 turnovers. So the Terps committed 17 turnovers, but generated 21 turnovers by Alcorn State. Another standout for the Terps was another Texas A&M transfer, 6'4" Andre Mills. He in 27 minutes as a starter went 3 for 6 on threes, 3 for 4 on twos, and 1 for 2 on free throws. He finished with 16 points, 8 rebounds, including 3 offensive boards, 3 assists versus 3 turnovers, and 2 steals. During the post-game press conference of Maryland head coach Buzz Williams on Tuesday night, had this exchange between Gene Wong of the Washington Post and Williams.
Yeah, Buzz, just 3 games into the season, just in terms of the rotation and who you want to see play what minutes and coming off the bench, that kind of thing. What have you seen so far? And there's any more clarity after 3 games?
No, sir. I think the consistency that we're looking for will have to come from practice, not just from the games. And I think that we're trying to make sure that we measure the same things in practice that we measure in the game so that they understand the growth that we need from them. And I think as it's happening in real time, we're probably not at the point in week 2 where we're allowed to give grace on if you're not meeting the standard of accountability on whatever we're trying to accomplish, we need to make a sub. And so some of that happened tonight. We had more stamina for longer periods of time, stamina mentally, stamina emotionally, stamina physically. So there was some growth, but in regards to the analytics and the things that we want to hold them accountable to, I think it's in year. Command is now closed. I think in year 1, week 2, I'm not concerned with our rotation yet.
And next up from Maryland at Marquette, Saturday afternoon at 2. Meantime, Virginia, in this regular season, improved to 3-0 overall with a 91-53 win over Hampton at John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville, Virginia, late night on Tuesday night. The Cavaliers never trailed. They won the first half 47-19, out-rebounded Hampton 49-25. Among the reasons why, 7-foot Kansas State transfer Uganya Onyenso, he's from Nigeria. He in just 18 minutes, 27 seconds off the bench had 18 points, 10 rebounds, including 4 offensive boards, 4 blocks, and 2 assists versus 3 turnovers. He went 2 for 3 on threes and 6 for 7 on twos. Did not attempt a free throw. How about that efficiency, though? Just 18-27 off the bench, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 4 blocks, and 2 assists. Did have the 3 turnovers. So during UVA head coach Ryan Odom's post-game press conference late night on Tuesday night, had this exchange between Jeff White, director of news content for VirginiaSports.com, and Odom.
Ugo had not been a big scorer at his previous stops. When you added him to this group, did you think he had some potential to do more offensively than he had done?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. Probably not, I mean, I wouldn't have said, hey, immediately in the recruiting process. But once we began to work with him and we got in the gym with him, then it became apparent, he's more than just a shot blocker. And I think certainly that was evidenced tonight. He really played big for us.
Yes, he did. Next up for Virginia, home to Marshall, Saturday at noon. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Thursday's show, episode 1198, will provide you with more on the Washington Commanders as they on Wednesday are beginning their practice week for their game against the Miami Dolphins in Spain this Sunday morning at 9:30. Also on Thursday's show, discuss the Washington Wizards, Georgetown basketball, and Virginia Tech basketball. The Wizards are at the Houston Rockets Wednesday night at 8. The Hoyas are home to Binghamton Wednesday evening at 6:30, and the Hokies are home to St. Joseph's Wednesday night at 7. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
And we always want to know one thing, what's causing all this?